This is Breaking Pressure, the voice of soccer reform, a podcast built to confront the broken U.S. youth soccer system and expose the pressures that are crushing real development. We're here to call it out. The pay-to-play platforms, the closed leagues, the politics gatekeeping talent, and erasing the voices of good coaches and local clubs. At our core, we believe in something better, one where players are developed to be brave, creative leaders. Inspired by the Kansas City Legends model and the training Legends for Life philosophy, this is where the next wave begins. Welcome to Breaking Pressure. Let's rebuild the game. Welcome back to Breaking Pressure and part 2 of our special series, The Journey of a Million Miles with Jen Buczkowski.
The Buzz.
Jen, welcome back.
Thank you.
In part 1, we explored Jen's early years, the foundation of her journey, family and hard work, and the goal-driven mindset that shaped her love of the game. We also explored how her father misappropriated taxpayer dollars to build green walls all over parks so that she could train.
I now have a picture of that, by the way.
We got to get it on the podcast. So today we're stepping into the next phase, the part where that foundation turned into something legendary. We're talking about what it takes to win championships, to maintain success year after year, and to earn the nickname the Iron Woman, which I'm wildly jealous of because the best nickname I ever had, I think, was like Caspi, where they just shortened my last name.
The Blizzard.
The Blizzard.
Come on, Brad. The Blizzard.
I'll have to get that shirt on here as well. So, Jen, your story, after your club and high school career started at Notre Dame. And, wow, what a 4-year experience for you at Notre Dame. Well, before we get into those years, though, talk about how did you get recruited? Because in today's world, we all hear about pathways. And by the way, I don't even think pathway existed as a phrase when we were getting recruited. So how did you find your way into Notre Dame?
I think like you said, today, at a very young age, a lot of girls are saying, how they want to play professional or go to college and play, women's college soccer. I think, it's a testament to where the game has grown and everything. But when I was playing, I don't know. I didn't really even think about playing college soccer. I think I started as, maybe a sophomore or so getting just letters in the mail. So I think today, it's different too, right? Kids get contacted via email or on Twitter, right? Everything's through social media these days. But you'd get letters in the mail and stuff. And so I started to get a whole bunch of letters. And I think my mom and my club coach, they were like, what are you going to do with this? And I had no clue. I hadn't really even thought about it. Some people have these dream schools they want to go to. And while Notre Dame was close to Chicago, I never really, from a young age was like, hey, I really want to go to Notre Dame. It just happened to be a place I went on for one of my 5 visits and stuff. So, kind of circling back around, I did my club soccer and actually participated in ODP, which, again, today has changed a lot. But through ODP, that was kind of the main, if you want to call it, pathway to kind of get evaluated on a higher level. And so I made the Illinois State team, and then I made the Midwest Region 2 regional team, and then I got selected for the youth national team stuff. So I think a lot of the college recruitment back then went through ODP, and then, depending on what club tournaments your club team was participating in, you could get recruited that way. So,
Jen, did you not have to send in VHS tapes? I mean, we sent in VHS tapes.
I did not. I think, again, ODP was very helpful being able to be on the youth national team. I think that helped me get my foot in the door a lot of places and stuff. And my club team did some stuff. We went out to the WAGs tournament, Washington area.
Yeah.
That was a big tournament we went to. We went to Disney, I think around Christmas time or shortly after Christmas. We would go out to Phoenix in February, Surf Cup. So some of those big name, old times tournaments and stuff you would go to. But it's not like it is today. Like, there weren't college coaches lined up. You didn't even know if college coaches were there.
Right.
It just, again, so happened that I just started getting letters in the mail, and
which was cool, right?
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, how fun was it to get get the big thick envelopes too?
Yeah.
Because if they were really interested, they were sending you their best brochures that they had at the time, and then they'd start to pile up a little bit, and you had interesting conversations. But I even recall we had a really thick college book that just had all the colleges across the country. And nobody's really helping us. I mean, our parents obviously got us the book, but then you're just flipping through, and it's like, I don't even know what I'm looking for. And
I still have one of those, by the way.
Yeah. No, I just remember sitting down, like, we collected so many, and not to talk a lot, but like a big box, an 8 by whatever, and it was just filled with these letters. And one day my mom was like, you need to sit down, come over here, and we're going to figure this out. Like, because we would just like put them in this box. And at some point it was like, okay, you need to figure out, I think, again, as I got maybe a little bit older, closer to my junior year, being like, what are we doing with all this? And back then, again, I think you could go on like 5 official visits. So I know I went out to Santa Clara, I went to Virginia, I went to Notre Dame. I did something at University of Illinois. But as soon as I went to Notre Dame, I just fell in love with it. Yeah.
What did you fall in love with? I mean, it's Notre Dame.
Yeah. I don't, it was just like, I went out to California, and I realized being out there, I was like, this is way too far away. So I think being closer to home was nice. It was a 2-hour drive from Chicago. But just being there, there's like this quote, and I forget who actually said it, but it's like, if you've been to Notre Dame, no explanation is necessary. If you haven't been, no explanation is adequate. So it's just like this special place that, like, you can try to describe it, but until you're there and you're on campus and you're surrounded with the people, there's so many Notre Dame fans out there, but to really be connected to the school in the sense of going there and being a part of it, it becomes a really special place.
It is cool, even for our kids.
Yeah, that's what I was I mean, that statement makes so much sense because my family is a huge Notre Dame fan. So there was a part of me that had this little dream of going to Notre Dame just because we are part Irish. And so my Illinois family is huge Notre Dame fans. And so they loved it. They would send me Notre Dame stuff as a kid. So that was really the only reason at a young age where I was so intrigued by Notre Dame, because it was connected to our family in some sense. Now, our daughter, Sophia, is in love with Notre Dame. And I think that was something that was so special. And this is where that statement comes to life for me, is because, Jen, you took the girls out there for the first time. Was it 3 years ago? Mm-hmm. I think 3 years ago you ran and helped run the Notre Dame Camp for Kids. And Sophia and a handful of the 12s were able to be a part of that. And Sophia's obsessed. I mean, she is absolutely in love with it. And I don't know if probably she can articulate it either, but it makes sense in that statement that you just made, is that when you're there, you're there. And I even felt it too. I was like, wow, how amazing is this to be there?
Well, their student union's fantastic. What people don't know is every time we go up there, it's like really busy season for me and work. So I find myself on campus and I go find an empty place at the student union. And by the way, their offices are nicer than what I have here. So I'm now just taking my own sign and putting it up within the Notre Dame student union. And I just go work for like 3 days straight. And it's been fantastic. Not only that, I've got a full cafeteria, and it's like, man, I'm on vacation as well, but it is such a neat place. I mean, you can just feel the energy around, and the people couldn't have been nicer than in most anywhere I've ever been. Everyone was super kind. Not only that, like, what's really funny is our girls, and I tell this story all the time. Jen was in a coaches meeting, so all these goofball girls are sitting outside while you're in that meeting, and the head coach walks by. Now, these girls have no idea that this is the head coach. They're just being their goofy selves, and they're like, oh, do you work here? Oh,
Do you play football?
yeah. And then they're like, oh, we're probably going to go here. What's it take to go here? And his response was, you just have to be really good. And every one of our girls looked and said, we got that.
Yeah, they were so confident, but they had no idea it was Nate.
And then he was laughing about it and joking with them, and it was like it was a really kind of cute moment of just like humanity, where this coach is just connecting with kids that are happen to be there, and nobody gives a crap about anything else other than here's people that are just having a fun dialogue. But it was the kindness that we saw all over campus that resonates completely. So talk about the program back then, because you guys had a lot of success while you were there as well. Did you play all 4 years? Did you give us kind of your journey through the 4 years?
Yeah, I mean, because this D1, right?
Oh, yeah.
So you're as a freshman
At the highest level.
At the highest level as a freshman. I mean, what was the
I mean, I
competition?
think
What was that like?
Notre Dame was, a historically very strong program. I think, I started there in 2003, and they had won the national championship in '99. So, a couple years prior to that and stuff. But coming in as a freshman, and I remember we had a huge class, my freshman class. There was 10 of us, and so it was a fun, first year starting experience. I think we were pretty successful through most of the season, but we ended up losing in the second round of the NCAA tournament, which was like unheard of. I mean, we were ranked, I think we were undefeated through like all of the actual season, and we were, ranked, and we ended up losing to Michigan in double overtime in like the second round game. So like very, very early in the NCAA tournament, and it was like an absolute shock to everyone, because I don't know exactly, but probably the worst that Notre Dame has ever done as far as the NCAA tournament. And so I think for a freshman like me, we didn't quite understand, all of that. But like for the upperclassmen or even the seniors, right, who didn't get another year, it was very frustrating, very, people were very sad.
Yeah,
and
probably devastating.
Yeah. So, then going into my sophomore year, there was a really strong emphasis on trying to get back and prove ourselves again. And I think it started, that year we took a trip during preseason to Brazil.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so that was pretty cool.
Where did you play down there?
I think we were in Sao Paulo maybe, but yeah. And again, all these opportunities to travel and do stuff, but lots of games. And I remember again, part of being at that level is you're there in Brazil, and we did some activities and that kind of stuff. But I remember like running sprints, and it was preseason, right? Like we were playing games,
right.
we were working,
We went to Bryn Mawr.
working towards the start of the season and stuff. And then again, that next year, my sophomore year, we did well. We did well throughout the season, and then we ended up winning the national championship that year.
Your sophomore year. Mm-hmm. And did you play your freshman year?
I did, yeah. I don't know. It's hard, like in that moment, you just keep working for that goal. And I think I was a little bit naive of being like, you don't have this mindset of like, I'm not going to play, right? Like you just went in and did your thing. And I think, I've always been a player that worked hard and was kind of physically fit. So I think, for any player, that's always an important thing, right? It's hard to work yourself into a team if you're not physically fit. So I think, that's something with these guys, I always kind of strive to make sure is, you're capable of doing the work, because it is a lot of work, and you may be able to do some special things on the ball, but if you can't actually cover the ground and carry yourself for, longer than 5-10 minutes, then you're not going to be super impactful.
Well, it's just part of the journey, right? If you're not willing to do the hard work on the dirty side of the sport, then you're not going to show. And, I'm going to go back to the recruiting process, because we were pretty similar to you, where ODP, so Olympic Development Program is what it stands for. And ODP back then for men was, there was a lot of guys that were trying out. And so it was a whole lot harder to get seen and kind of come up through the ranks. But on the men's side in club, we did all the big tournaments, the Surf Cups, the showcases all over down. And where my reality check came in was we were down in Orlando playing in the national championship, so top 4 teams. And we had like 50 or 60 college coaches that were lining the sidelines. And what the reality moment that I had was not a one of those coaches are there to watch me. They're watching the 5 studs that are on our team or the 2 or 3 studs on the other team, and they all want the exact same person. So then it comes back to how do you create separation for yourself? And this is what I think parents are missing is we're chasing this, hey, let's go get seen by these big Power 5, Power 10 colleges. Well, the reality is they're picking the cream of the crop. So if you're not doing the little things to make yourself the cream of the crop, you're just traveling to be traveling. They're not sitting there going, oh, let's just see what random kid I can discover out here. They know exactly who they're looking for. Now, do they happen to find some additional players here and there? Yeah, but that's not the primary role. The other thing that I found interesting was if you look at the stats, and you made this comment earlier, you went to Notre Dame because it was 2 hours away from where you lived, right? Most people that travel all over this country to get seen by all of these big schools that are far away, what is it, 90% of kids end up going within a regional snapshot of footprint of where they're at. Why? Because they want to be able to go home and see their family. They care about their friends. They want their parents to be able to show up and watch games. So a couple of things that were just running through my head because I always kind of pull this podcast back to the idea that if parents are listening, like we get it. Recruiting has become a business. And we're selling this pipe dream of all of these coaches lining fields. But the idea that you're going to get a phone call from Notre Dame is pretty darn challenging, which is what I think makes your story so unique that you just – you went through the ranks of ODP, you played club, and then you got pulled in, and by the sophomore year, now you're winning NCAA championships, and you had playing time as a freshman. How many freshmen do you think get playing time this year, especially in the Power 5 schools?
Power 5, indeed.
I mean, it is crazy. Women, I know they've just readjusted some things, but, when I was helping my last older group of girls, with the recruiting process at Legends and stuff, you were looking at roster sizes of 40 plus kids. Like some of these colleges have almost 2 different teams. And yeah, going in and that's a decision, kids and players and, their parents and family, like a decision you have to make. Do I want to go to a big time school and never play a minute until maybe my senior year or, play 5 or 10 minutes at the end of the game when your team's already winning 5-0, versus going to a school where you can, be competitive and get playing time. And, I've seen and I've watched a lot of the girls that, I used to coach or, that are now into that college age group stuff. And I see them, kids that initially signed with, some bigger schools, even within the region, say, hey, you know what, I don't want to do this anymore. I'm going to go play, at a different school that may be a little bit lower level as far as Division 1 or 2, 3. But I want to go play, and I'm going to play all the time, and my friends are there, and I'm going to enjoy life. So. Well,
my espresso shots are kicking in because my mind's going 100 different directions. One, KC Current 2, we had a bunch of girls that came over. You know what I found wildly interesting is most of those girls weren't from big college, big schools. And I'm sitting here like in the back of my mind going, these are like mid-America schools. They're Division II in a lot of cases. And I'm sitting in, why is that? And I can't help but to go back to what you just kind of commented, right? A lot of these girls that go to the big schools that may not play till their sophomore, junior, sometimes senior year. Like we had somebody, the gal Marty that cuts my hair. She has 2 daughters that plays, and she's been around the sport. And there was one of her friend's daughters went to Alabama. They told her, you're not going to play till your senior year. She lasted a year, and then she was tired of being away from home. So like the mental commitment that you have to have from freshman year to senior year before you're going to see the field time either has to be incredibly resilient.
It's like Rudy.
Yeah.
It has to be like Rudy, right? that intensity.
And not many people have that mental fortitude, especially when you're at Alabama and there's a fun football game every Saturday and all the shenanigans going on all around you. But tell me, like, the focus that you have to have. Mm-hmm. Right, I'm going so many different directions. I'm going to try to pull it back to you.
Rein it in, Casper.
The focus you have to win a NCAA tournament. Talk about what that looked like. Like, you're at
sacrifice.
A wonderfully big school that has all kinds of programs and fun things to do. What does your life look like as a sophomore to win a NCAA tournament?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely different than the regular student body. Again, at Notre Dame, there's a high academic standard. So I think, typically you would say a lot of nerdy type kids that are pretty disciplined and sacrifice.
LIU,
yeah, it's very similar to LIU.
No, but
we spent a lot of time in the library.
That was the local bar.
After hours.
Which is a true story because they actually took your student
ID,
your campus ID, which by the way had your birthday on it. So at 19 years old, you're handing them an ID that says I'm 19, and they're like, "Come on in the library."
No big deal.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I think the discipline.
I mean, but you didn't do that. I'm sure you were actually in one study.
Well, you know
right?
what? At Notre Dame, actually, and I don't know what their rules are this currently and stuff, but during that time when I was there, we actually had a dry fall season. Yeah, and so, I think most people followed it.
Well, I'm sure
I followed it. I was a good girl. No, but it just wasn't something I was interested too much in at the time. But yeah, as far as that kind of stuff, and obviously you would go and hang out with friends and have a little bit of a social life and stuff. But yeah, we played games on Friday and Sunday. So, your weekends were dedicated to games. And if you were home, right, we'd have our game on Friday night. And after the game, you didn't do a whole lot. And Saturday was preparation for Sunday's game. And, we would go to the football games. Notre Dame's obviously a really great, historically, football team. And, but you'd go for half the game and leave. Like, we didn't even stay for the whole entire football game because, you didn't want to be on your feet standing in the student section because you'd be tired for the game on Sunday and stuff. So, those sacrifices as far as missing out on social type activities, or your weekend is, structured around your games or travel, right? We would, being in South Bend, have to bus most of the time from South Bend 2 hours to the airports in Chicago. So, catching up, you miss class, doing your schoolwork, in the bus as you travel, and then catching your flight to wherever. We were part of the Big East then, so we would be going out on the East Coast a lot for our conference games. But, having to do all of that work as far as being a college student, missing classes, all on a plane, on a bus, in a hotel, it's gruesome sometimes,
It wears on you. Everybody thinks they want it, but it wears
it's a job.
on you.
Well, because it's a job. It's like a full-time job. You're a student athlete, and student comes first, obviously. And so you have to maintain the grades and do your responsibilities, and then you're an athlete. Because if you can't, then you're not playing.
Yeah, and then you get into probably off seasons, and I don't know about you, but our coaches always tried to keep us under control by having practices at like 6-7 a.m. throughout the week, and it's like, well, you can decide to go out, but you're going to pay for it when you wake up at 5-6 a.m.
Yep, I remember. We similar, I think, too, because being in South Bend, we had lots of snow, and so when I was there, we didn't have too many different indoor facilities, so we had to share with like football, which got priority over everything, and all the other sports that we're trying to play in the middle. So I remember, like, on a Friday night, we would have practice at like 9 p.m. on a Friday night, not even in season, right? And so again, like, here's your opportunity. It's not even your season, but we still have training and stuff. Or, spring break. I remember one spring break, we actually got together, a couple of my teammates and I, and we went somewhere. We came back, and coach was just like not happy, and we were running sprints, and I remember he made a comment about, if these cones were kegs, I bet you would be making the time. But just like,
I didn't know we could do that.
Yeah, he was not like very supportive of drinking, which in a college environment is probably going to happen for most people. But again, he held us kind of to a high standard and understood. So you are athletes, and this is kind of what our job is here and stuff. So he while it was kind of frustrating at times, I think overall was pushing us in the right direction.
Sarah had a leadership role at one point that had to actually tell players they weren't playing.
Yeah. Because I was captain at at LIU.
Long Island University.
Yep. And so, yeah, we had to make some decisions because living in New York, it's very different. Like the city was our playground. And so you have a bunch of, young adults just turning 21, and they're not only going to school and playing soccer, but they're also exploring a massive city.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, the city was our playground. Yeah. I mean,
young adults. That's being nice. I would have said a bunch of dumbass kids running around the city.
Well, that's probably more accurate, but because we're on a podcast. Yeah,
Poor
and
kids.
so it is really hard to, and there were seasons that, again, I chose dry seasons as well, and it was, trying to enforce that and to keep players really reined in and regulated that we had a job to do, and this is why we were here.
Yeah.
And that was really hard in the city.
And I think that's what kids right now, right? They say they want to do these things, but they don't understand the sacrifices. I think as they get a little bit older and, it's, hey, you've got homecoming and a weekend of soccer out of town. What are you picking, right? And, there's a lot of some of those sacrifices as they get a little bit older that they have to make and stuff. But,
Which is hard for kids too.
Oh, yeah.
I remember we had a prom my senior year, and I had a tournament in Wichita. Like, we're playing 2 games, and in typical fashion, I get knocked and split my head open. So we have to stop by the emergency room on the way home, and they're like, "Oh, we got to shave your head." And it's like, "You're not shaving my head." So they said, "Put a couple staples in it, put some goop," and I got to go shower and get to a prom. That was our life, to try to balance the two. It was still, those are hard decisions. They wear on people, especially kids, because they're trying to find their sense of self through this movement, and that's hard. Like, it's a job that takes priority, and it burns out quickly.
Yeah, but that's the other thing that I was going to say, because I think there's the difference, and I'm looking at just kind of my own story, is I still really love the game. And that was the big difference, even in college.
And I think that's
still
what you
loved
have
it.
to have. You have to have a passion and a strong desire for the game. Because if you don't truly love the game, like if you're there, because your friends are around sometimes, or someone else is maybe encouraging you.
Your
Hey,
parents wanted you to go. Or...
You got to do this so you can get a scholarship to help pay for whatever. So I think unless you truly love the game, the hard work and the sacrifices are going to always outweigh and make you not love the game and want to quit or want to do something else.
Well,
or if you're not playing, if you don't get playing time, that would be incredibly difficult to stay in love, right, when you're sitting the bench.
Well, and this is a great transition, right? Because after your 4 years of college, you started to play in the pro ranks, and what comes to my mind is, how do you get through 4 years and keep the motivation and the passion of the love to the game to want to go play at another level, right? Because now you're beyond just love of the game. It is your life at that point. Like, you are saying, this is who I am. And what I find wildly interesting is how I find it fun in a lot of ways that kids, they dream big. I want to be a pro player. I want to go do this professional pathway and get there. And then, so I don't want to stomp on people's dreams, but I don't think they fully grasp that it's hard enough to just get to college and still find motivation and want to play. It's even harder to go from college to the pro ranks and still keep that same motivation, passion, and drive that it takes to have a winning mentality. Can you talk a little bit about your...
Maybe can we do this, Brad? Can we share Sophia's story? Because this was really like a very intimate moment that we had with Sophia, and she was very genuine about the questions that she was asking. And then maybe we propose kind of that framework to Jen to say, how would you answer this?
It's a good one. So we were driving out to practice on Thursday night.
Yeah.
And Sophia in the back, she goes, "Do you think that I can be a professional player?" And so, as a parent, the first thing that we all want to say is, "Of course, you can do whatever you want. You can." And in my
us as a parent, we did not say that.
Yeah. So we're trying to think about, how do we answer this that keeps her motivated and doesn't crush her dreams. And the response that we gave was, I think anybody with the right mindset can, make a good effort to go play professional. And I think you are as capable as anybody else to go do that. Do I think that you are doing the difficult things today to go play pro, to be a pro athlete? I said, no. And I said, it's okay because you're 13 years old, right? That's something that you have to work towards. And she goes, well, I want to work towards it. And I said, well, you need to be thoughtful about how you do it, because work too hard today and you're going to be burnt out tomorrow. And so it's a progression. And it was a very honest conversation where it's like, I don't need to sit there and pad your ego and say, oh, yeah, my dad said I can go play Division I or go play professional sports. She needs to have a realistic lens that you can do it, but the path to get there, that the amount of work that it takes is a level that most people aren't willing to put themselves through. It's that idea that we have, these uphill, we used the quote last hill, we have uphill dreams and we have downhill work habits. Yeah. And that's not going to sustain long term.
Yeah. And so I think with her, I mentioned three things. I said, I think, players that want to go and perform, and this is where, Jen, I'll ask you, but I said these three things to her. I said that it has to have your attitude, your mindset has to have a level of intensity to it. Like there is purpose, there is intensity. And I said it has to be intrinsically motivated, which means it has to be driven by you. I said, and the third thing I said is you have to almost be obsessed with it. I said, and those are the things that I think will help drive if this is something you really want to do, and are you ready to do that? I think that's
and even those three ingredients, it's still an uphill battle.
Yeah. And she identifies her size, and she's like, I'm not going to get noticed because of my size. And we're like, well, actually, your size is going to bring you a lot of notoriety, because you play really big. I said, but it's not going to be in just those elements, but you're going to have to be really crisp and clean and play that way all the time, which is really hard in that consistency. So what would you tell these kids? What would you, not necessarily Sophia per se, but like what got you there? What was your ingredients?
No, I think what you kind of said is exactly it. It's not like you can do X, Y, Z with the ball, right? Or these skills. Like, yeah, you're going to have to be technically good and that kind of thing, but and understand the game, right? Like you need those pieces of it, but like at a younger age, you'll learn those along the way. You're not going to have them right away. But I think it's that mentality, it's that drive, it's something that, you want within and that you're able to become disciplined to do like over and over and over again. Because if you don't have that, like we said, you're gonna get lost in all of the hard work, because being a professional athlete or even a college athlete or, the best at whatever you do, it takes so much hard work, and mentally and physically it's draining. But if you have that drive from within, where it's not someone else telling you have to go out to practice, right? Or, hey, you know what, I'm not going to give you your phone until you do your homework, whether it's school or soccer or basketball, whatever, right? Like it's you wake up and you decide to go do that. Again, I remember when I was probably 7th, 8th grade, getting into high school, like during the summer, like I would ride my bike to the community gym and go run on the treadmill, right? Mm-hmm. Like no one told me to go run on the treadmill. That's just what I did. And I don't know, like it was just something I was like, hey, I have to do these things, right? Like if I want to be good, or, as I started to get into the professional atmosphere and environment, during off season, I would have to go to work. And so I would work from like 7 to 11 o'clock in the morning, and then there was a group of boys in Chicago from the club that I grew up playing with at soccer's. One of the guys that was helping out over there, he had a whole bunch of like MLS players that would come back and play, and then obviously some of the older boys. But during from like lunch, right, my lunch break, I would go and play from 12 to 1:30, 2 o'clock, and then I would go to a different place after that to do like more, it was called Get Fast, so like more running on the treadmill to get fast, like strengthening, that kind of stuff. So again, it wasn't like, hey, I went and did my workout, or I went and practiced for 2 or 3 times this week. Like I was doing 2 or 3 workouts a day, yeah. In addition to working, so in addition to actually practicing, right? I was going and running on my own. I was going to the CrossFit gym. I was going to this other place. Like you find you have to find ways to really push yourself. And I think, that's maybe why I became the player I became, is because I could be so disciplined, and I was, that nickname, the Iron Woman, right? Like, that was my forte, is being the hardest working person. Other players may have other qualities that make them stand out.
Who gave you the nickname?
I think it probably, I would say, started with Paul Riley in Philadelphia. And he was a coach that kind of helped shaped, who I was becoming as a player. Because, again, stepping from Notre Dame to the professional environment, I went to New Jersey first, and I didn't probably play. At Notre Dame, I started and played almost every single game. I think I held, some kind of record there as far as minutes played and stuff.
For all 4 years?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
And then I went to New Jersey and played at Sky Blue my first year in 2009, and I wasn't as successful as I had been in college, and it was just a jump up, again, playing against girls older than you, or at a different speed. And at college it's one level, and then now you're playing at an even smaller pool of really great players and stuff. So I struggled a little bit to find my way, and somehow that year we made it to the playoffs, and I remember in the championship game, again, kind of because of the qualities that I was starting to develop as a player, a little bit more defensive, I was told to mark Marta in the championship game, and I marked Marta the whole entire game, and we ended up winning. And then I think from there, I got a little bit more noticed.
Oh man,
because
could
I
you
hadn't
see that 1v1 battle. I just got it so excited.
Is that game recorded somewhere?
I'm sure.
Man, I'd love to see
I want to
that.
see that battle.
But
So those listeners that don't know, Marta is a Brazilian player that is arguably one of the most skillful women soccer players in, I'd say, history. And her brilliance on the ball is very similar to what legends try to create and train
And her work ethic.
and style. And did you know her personally?
I knew Marta. Everyone knew Marta, right? But not like at that point, no,
Yeah.
not like as like a friend. Let me call her up.
Nope, she just knew she had to mark her 1v1. She's like, that girl is not going to score on me.
That's a mindset, right?
It is a
Like,
mindset.
if
You are
you're-
not going to
if they're
score
going to
on
be
me.
put on, arguably the best women's player at the time,
Yeah.
that's a job.
Yeah, and I think, at that point, like, that was kind of probably a turning point for me, From there, I got traded over to the Philadelphia team my next year.
So you went from Jersey to Philly. Mm-hmm. Oh, my God. How'd you like Jersey and Philly?
We love East Coast.
But I liked, but again, being in the professional environment, now you're like a little bit more of an adult, and you have a little bit more responsibility. You don't have to go to class every day, and you have a little bit more free time. So it was fun. It was kind of nice to break out. And again, the professional scene has changed, I think, probably so much. But back then, when I was in New Jersey, we stayed at the Staybridge Suites for 6 months.
Wow.
So it was kind of nice. Like, I'm 22, 23 at that age. But, someone coming in, changing your bed and giving you clean towels every day.
Did you have continental breakfast?
We had breakfast every morning, so
Oh
you would go down, have breakfast, and then, like, we had the pool, and then, after games, we played at Rutgers.
She's so bougie.
I know. But we played at Rutgers, so we would hop on the train and take the train into New York, and then, go out, like you said, experience city life, have fun. So it was fun in a different way than Notre Dame, and it was, again, you had a little bit more freedom, and you were on your own and making money. At least at that time, it seemed like a lot of money. It was not a lot of money, but for what we were doing and what we needed, it was great.
But it's fascinating, right? Like we think professional athletes, they're showing up in their Corvettes and Ferraris to go walk down the red carpet for the game, but it wasn't like that then,
no.
right? It was. You were living your life. You were happy staying.
Yeah. And that's, again, you have to have this love for the game. Like, I remember that first year, or even when I was going out to Philly, like, it was my dad and I, we packed up my Ford Escape, and we drove 12 hours from Chicago to Philly with whatever I could fit in my car. And that's what I had for 6 months. And again, like, the professional season, at least back then, right? It was, you only played 6-7 months, and then for the other rest of the year you had to go back home or figure out,
find your own trainings, right? They
yeah,
didn't provide
find your own
training.
training, get a job, because the money you were making definitely didn't, help you survive over a course of a year. It was enough for 6 months. But that's, again, like, I would go back and I worked a marketing job in Chicago, found my own training, and then 6 months later you'd move back. So it was very, kind of bumpy and inconsistent. And again, you had to really, love the game and what you were doing, because it wasn't, while the lifestyle was fun, it wasn't easy.
Right.
I have so many questions.
I mean, what's
so
running
many
through my
questions.
mind is,
Okay.
I'm not sure that women's soccer today, with the it took a class of women that love the game. I'm not sure that same class exists if you bring it through the ranks today.
Well,
it took a certain amount of commitment and belief in that this league is special. And look at the league today. Like, do you ever take a step back and go, man, we really helped pioneer what this league is?
Yeah. I mean, I do, because it's like, you go to the KC Current games and they're fantastic. Like, that stadium
Ridiculous.
sold out, and people are wearing jerseys. And when I was playing, we played at Shawnee Mission South High School. And we eventually started to play at Swope, but even Swope, we held 2,000 people. People weren't wearing our jerseys; they were wearing like homemade T-shirts, or the fan club that we had, the Blue Crew, like they would try to help make T-shirts for people and stuff. But it's like a
good old puffy paint.
Yeah, it was completely different. Like, the support that we had came from a small group, like I said, the KC Blue Crew, of like 30 different people, and they would make posters and like hang them on the fences. Like, it was more of like you could compare it, big time Texas football. Like, I'm sure they had better, setup and environment.
Sure.
You think about the football, the high school football in Texas, like, that was almost better than what we were having as professional athletes.
But it takes what my fascination is, that it takes committed people. Like, you don't just, the Field of Dreams concept isn't real, right? You don't just build it and people come. Right? You have to build it brick by brick, and it has to be on the backs of people that are wildly passionate about what they're doing and are willing to do the hard work. Like, I would imagine you had a lot of like-minded people around you that were hardworking players that did the little things to create the separation. And for me, I was the same way. Like, in college, played every minute of every game for 2 years straight, freshman, sophomore year, and I hang my hat on that. Right? I worked hard, but my thing was control the little things. Right, I can control if I'm in shape. I can control if I'm doing the hard work to make sure that my playing time is there, and then trust in the training and the process that the rest of the game will continue to get better. But it's just fascinating to me how many women at that time had to be committed to the game, to the craft, to make it what it is today. So. I don't know.
Yeah, no, she's a true trailblazer.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's how you can identify it.
Alongside, all these other great people. And I think for Kansas City especially, like, we've had a great run of Kansas City soccer.
Oh, yeah.
And some really dedicated coaches and people, and we're surrounded by a lot of them, which is really, really neat to see. But so let me do this. I'm going to go back. Tell me about a game or an environment that was maybe the most exciting. College ranks, professional ranks. What was a game where, fans showed up, or, the outcome mattered most, that you walked off that field and you said, wow, that this is all that hard work. Mm-hmm. This is what it's for.
Yeah. I mean, I think, if you look at Notre Dame and stuff, you have to probably go back to that championship game my sophomore year, I remember. Especially, given the history that we had the year previously.
Where was that played at?
We were in North Carolina, at Raleigh.
What was the atmosphere like?
It was, I forget the name. I should remember the name of the stadium, but it was great. Fans everywhere. I think obviously being, in Carolina and, not close to Notre Dame. Our families traveled, and there were some people that traveled. It was a pretty neutral, probably, crowd. We ended up playing UCLA in the final. So again, like, it's not like it was a certain home-based area where
it was egghead versus egghead.
Yeah. So, but again, at that time, it was pretty, popular. They filled the stadium. It was good and stuff. But I remember in the game, it was a close game. It was 0-0, and one of our backs ended up playing back to the goalkeeper, and the timing of it, the positioning of it was off, and she ended up scoring an own goal. She went back to play back. And so I remember, like, during it or after it, when we were talking about it, we were like, we can't lose this game. Like, they didn't even score their own goal, we scored it for them and stuff, but it ended up going in, we ended up tying it, and then ended up going into penalty kicks. And so, being in that environment, the championship game, right, into penalty kicks, and so I got to take one, and we ended up winning. Our goalkeeper made a save on their last kick that helped win it for us. So
wow,
oh my gosh.
That was a really fun game, and again, the intensity of it and how it all played out as far as going into the penalty kicks, I think that's definitely one to remember.
Even though as coaches we hate when games end in penalty kicks, especially at the younger ages. But wow, you can't ask for it.
But I even remember that season, and again, this is a tribute to Randy, who was the coach at Notre Dame. Like, leading up into the NCAA tournament, we would do penalty kicks every day at practice, and they had a notebook, and everyone would go up and take their penalty kick, and they would write down, did you make it, did you miss it? I don't know specifically if it was like writing down like which corner you shot to, but like, we trained so much for it that, like, it paid off.
Because again, in your training, that's where you do all the work, right? It's not necessarily in the game. It's all the stuff we do at Legends to prepare them for battle, right? So when that actual battle happens, or those moments happen, that they're calm, composed, and they got it. So I have just I think kids would appreciate this. Do you have what side do you shoot at? Do you have like a routine? Do you walk up? Do you take 2 steps?
What was your PK?
Do you do a stutter step? What's your thing, Jen?
My thing was, obviously place the ball, and I would, now I can't even remember, but I would take like maybe 2 or 3 steps back, and then over to the left, and then I always went to my bottom right with the inside of my foot. So goalkeeper's left, right for me. Okay. So, just a hard inside foot pass to the lower corner.
Yep. Low corner.
So. What was yours?
I shanked it far right.
I always went left, low left. The goalie's stronger side to be able to dive to for most right-footed people.
Yeah.
But I loved it. I was like, I don't care how good you are diving. I'm going to put it right in that one spot every single time. And
penalty kicks are hard. I remember as a club player, we had a penalty shootout once in the State Cup, and I missed the shot, and we didn't advance or win the game. So, I mean, you're going to make them, you're going to miss them, and
it happens.
Yeah.
And by the way, like the bravery,
it's a mental challenge.
The bravery it takes to just take one,
Yeah.
and look at all the greatest players in the world. Like Messi's missed more PKs than people probably even know.
Mm-hmm. You think you should make it, and
you should, and they do majority of the time. But you've got to get out there and at least try them. So. Yeah, and by the way, I keep a checklist as well, but now it's in married life. I was like, did she make the bed?
Well, if you're going to pick on me, I'm going to pick on you for a second, because you jumped right into this episode, and you went straight to Jen, and you forgot to introduce your co-host. And I wrote that check.
I didn't even introduce myself.
Well, I wrote that. I kept score on that one, Casper. So let's start this battle.
Well, so we're coming up on the 45 minutes.
But I have so many more questions.
Yeah, well, we have a whole nother episode.
All right, part 3. Come back, Jen.
I'll be back.
We're going to talk about life after soccer as well, and I think this is an important one for parents to hear, because we're so excited to get kids to a certain stage or a certain level, but the reality is your soccer career ends at a fairly early age, and you have the rest of your whole big life to look forward to. And how do you use this game to help prepare yourself for the stage after the game? And I think that's just as an important message.
Yeah. So episode part 3.
Part 3. It'll be the
Jen's
conclusion.
Identity and her death of ego. What happened to her next?
And then we'll start just bringing you in, so you can go on to what grinds my gears episodes, and you can just rant about anything that you want to.
I like it.
which is Grind My Gears was, I think it was a Family Guy or a
Family
Simpson,
Guy.
something like that. But, so any final thoughts? Again, we've talked a lot about your college years, your pro years, and again, the magnificent journey. Finish with a little bit of the mindset. Like, how has that mindset impacted who you are today, even now afterwards?
Yeah, I mean, I think I always go back to, like, I tell the girls, you got to be the hardest working person out there, right? Like, if you're not willing to do those things, like, it's hard to actually learn what a coach is saying or to learn anything about the game. Like, you have to really be open to doing the hard work and being disciplined to, you know, put yourself out there, because that's, I think, the ultimate, you know, quality that's going to carry someone long term is that discipline to do the hard work, to be open to feedback. You know, what's your attitude, what's your mindset? Like, we see some of these girls and, you know, they're 7th and 8th grade, these 2012s that we coach, and you know, they're going through a lot right now in life, and, you know, sometimes they show up and I'm just like, you're not open to, you know, being coachable right now, or, you know, your mindset, your attitude, you know, is not going to be successful. And I think that's the starting point for anything is what you're willing to do as far as your effort, and then your attitude to be willing to learn. And there's a lot of things to learn about the game, right? Technique, tactics, all sorts of things. But if you don't have that open mindset, if you don't have that good attitude and mentality, you know, you're always going to be shut off from a lot of the things that we're trying to teach as coaches, and, you know, from there. So I think, you know, those are my biggest things. That's kind of, you know, again, when I was younger, did I really know all about that? No. But as I kind of went through my, you know, 4 years at Notre Dame, and then even playing professional for almost 7 years, you know, that's kind of the player I became. And, you know, that's where I got the Iron Woman, you know, nickname from, is that consistency, that willingness to kind of do the dirty work and to always be, you know, reliable through my effort and my attitude.
Can I say this just quickly? Because I always chuckle. Sophia will say something like, do you think we're going to have an easy practice today? I'm like, your coach is Iron Woman. Like, when is that going to sink in? Like, no.
Well, my favorite was when some kid, when one of the girls went down in a game, and like they came out the field and they were complaining. It was something mild. And I think you walked over and you're like, you're complaining to the Iron Woman of soccer about,
I did say
something
that.
That's just a mild little injury for. But again, I think that's the difference, right? It's finding the mentality to do the hard things in those moments, and I think that's what we're really trying to teach the girls at this point, because if you like it or not, or if you get recruited or not, if you go far in this game or not, at the bottom line, the ability to work hard will get you further in life than anything else. So, and the ability to stand up and look at adversity and failure and be unafraid to stand up and go at it again is what creates separation.
Yeah,
So,
and then from Jen's perspective as well, is the willingness to stay open in your mindset, open to grow and learn. I mean, if you shut yourself off and you think you know everything, or you're the best player, you have the ego, or you're getting looks now, you know, like, you have to keep your mindset open to all of it.
yep.
To all of it.
So,
All right.
as we close part 2, the message is clear. Greatness isn't about a single moment. It's about thousands of moments no one sees. The early mornings, the recovery sessions, the grit, the bad days, and the mindset that says, I'm showing up anyway. Jen, your journey through Notre Dame and the pros shows that championships don't build character, they reveal it. And that's why you earned the nickname the Iron Woman.
Jen.
To every player, parent, and coach listening, remember this: consistency beats flash. The ones who keep showing up are the ones who keep going the distance. So, Jen, thank you for sharing your story and reminding us that success is built one choice, one practice, one day at a time. This is Breaking Pressure. You're listening to part 2 of A Journey of a Million Miles with Jen Buczkowski.
Cheers to old Notre Dame. Come on, Jen.
I'm glad we can edit.
That was great.
We'll see
Let me try it
everyone
again.
for part
Thank
3.
you, guys.